Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play ChäoS Head. So last part, we got cut off partway through this scene. Well, I say partly, we did finish the delusion, but technically we're still in the same scene that we were in at the start, more or less. So let me go ahead and get my timer started, and let's go ahead and begin. Masumi was calling me. Next to him, Rimi waved a hand at me. I looked around, blinking. Rimi and I weren't hugging. I didn't spot Ayase either.
ドキドキした。
I had a hard time with carnage, emotional or otherwise. Yandere belonged only in the second dimension. I definitely didn't want to become involved with one. I hastened to chase after the other two. As the three of us walked along, side by side, we passed through the outpatient lobby. Apparently, they'd already stopped receiving outside patients, and you could have counted the number of them left in the lobby. Except there were about 10 people gathered in front of a big LCD TV set up in one of the lobby's corners.
何かな?
Well, why don't we go over and check it out?
また新しいニュージェネでも起きたんじゃね?
That seems like a safe bet. I went rigid at Masumi's carelessly tossed off words, but soon Rimi casually held my hand. But thanks to the warmth of her hand, I managed to scrape by without any further cowering. I had the sensation that my strained heart was smoothly melting away. Rimi was my support. Rimi reassured me. Rimi stayed with me. Parts of her were overly optimistic, but as long as she was by my side, I could just barely hold up under the terror that assaulted me. I was so glad Rimi was there for me. Masumi, who had gone up in front of the television at some point, beckoned to me and Rimi. All the other people gathered there, elderly patients and young patients, and even nurses, had their eyes glued to the TV screen. What on earth was there? Yeah, let's see. Rimi pulled my hand and I moved with her to a position from which we could see the TV. I fearfully took a look at the screen. Upon seeing the banner text displayed there, I was stunned. New Gen perpetrator arrested. It was news about the arrest of the New Gen perpetrator.
今日午後3時半ごろ、警視庁渋谷署はいわゆるニュージェネレーションの凶器と呼ばれる渋谷で発生した一連の殺人事件のうち
That doesn't seem particularly likely.
9月29日に起きた通称貼り付け殺人事件の容疑者を逮捕しました。殺人容疑で逮捕されたのは無職狛枝慎吾容疑者25歳です。容疑については先ほど渋谷署で行われた記者会見の通り、今のところ太田久さん殺害についてのみで、他の事件に関する容疑は今後追及していく構えです。狛枝容疑者は太田さん殺害については容疑を認めており、交際している女性が太田さんにしつこくつけ回され、カッとなって首を絞めた。しかしゾンビだったため死なず、貼り付けにして動きを止めた。などと意味不明の供述をしています。警察の調べでは、狛枝容疑者には現在交際している女性がいないことが明らかになっており、薬物を摂取していた疑いもあるとみて捜査を進めています。
I couldn't believe it. As it all unfolded, the TV screen showed a live broadcast of the suspect about to be transported by car. The screen blinked violently with the flashes of the lit-up cameras belonging to the reporters, thronging all around. The suspect had a jacket covering his head, preventing me from making out anything whatsoever about his appearance. Rimi's hand squeezed mine harder. Still gazing at the TV screen, she murmured to me, "You say after all as if you suspected us." Another well, I mean, technically we can only sort of see one, but as far as we know, the one that we're seeing here is not in a wheelchair, and thus it is not the person that we refer to as Shogun.
楠木さんだって間違った推理をしてただけ。ね、これで何もかも解決。
But does it really?
もう見えない影なんかに怯えることないんだよ。
What if I liked being afraid of invisible shadows? She was right. The detainment of the staking perpetrator automatically meant I wasn't the criminal. Well, no. It just means you're not necessarily the criminal of the staking incident. Again, there's nothing stopping them from deciding to, you know, not consider this the result of a serial killer. And it is the result of multiple people attempting to, you know, basically copycats. Is probably the best way to describe it. I wasn't a sleepwalker, nor did I have multiple personalities, which meant my normalcy and sanity had been proven. Considering the number of delusions you have, pretty sure you are anything but normal. At the same time, it also signified a denial of the blood-soaked Rimi I had seen there. That hadn't been reality. Surely it was one of my delusions. It was the end. The nightmare that had gone on tormenting me for close to a month had now ended. I would have to cower in fear of shadows, and cover in fear of God's gaze, and frantically try to obtain a D-sword. I assume that is supposed to be I wouldn't, not I would. Oh, never mind. No longer. Despite that, why was it? A sense of dissatisfaction with this explanation lingered in the depths of my chest. It didn't ring true that Shogun would stalk me for the sake of a mere hoax. But maybe I found myself thinking about it that way because my sense of what was regular had gone numb over this past month. The cell phone I left in my pocket started vibrating. Though I'd set it on vibrate, it was nevertheless impermissible to use your phone in a hospital. I let go of Rimi's hand, went outside through the front entrance, and to OK up my cell phone. I assume that's supposed to be open up my cell phone.
Hi.
This fan translation, while I do think it is better than the one that I did originally when I played this however many years ago it was, I feel like it does still have some sort of grammatical and spelling errors in some areas, some of which should be caught fairly easily from just a simple reading of the various lines. You know, particularly whatever it is that gets spit out when you do a translation, whether it's, you know, some sort of machine translation or you yourself actually translating it. Admittedly, the spelling mistakes in those scenarios, if you are personally translating it, don't make a whole hell of a lot of sense to exist. They might make sense if you were doing some sort of machine translation. And sounds like someone's crying.
Dare?
I'm gonna assume this is whatever her name is, Yua or something like that. I braced myself. Maybe I would hear "let me pass" again. I quickly checked the caller's name. But it was from an unknown number. I had a bad premonition, and I was about to hurry up and end the call when... Oh, it's our sister. What I heard through the phone was horribly anguished and undeniably Nanami's voice.
Nanami.
Give back Nana's what? Oh, okay. The Garo Froggy especially, well, so first things first. Okay, so the last part would have needed to go on for like another 10 minutes if I had gone ahead and actually waited until that transition. So Yeah. The Garo Froggy specialty shop was called Froggy's Pad. That's a stupid sounding name. They'd most likely been aiming to leave a good impression on customers with a bit of a pun, but frankly it was a level of a granddaddy's gag. Ban thought with a sigh. There were currently 20 Froggy's Pad stores under development in the capital metropolitan area, and they were also said to be in the midst of further expansion. Ban was visiting the first store among them, a shop in Harajuku that Garo Froggy fans considered sacred ground. But Ban quickly regretted having come here.
なあ、ゆあちゃん。帰っていいか?
He muttered quietly to Yua, who had accompanied him and showed him the way to the store.
でも、百瀬さんからゲロカエルンを買ってくるように頼まれてるんじゃ。
Why would she?
だってよ、おじさんだけ明らかに浮いてるからさ。
It was located along Takashita Street, and young people were merrily strolling down the road in front of them, but most of them passed by without a glance at the shop. There were few people inside the small store interior. Even now, there were only about 5 people, including Ban and Yua, and all of them, except for Ban, were high school girls. If a tall-looking man like Ban walked along Takashita Street with Yua, surely those around them would assume he had something lecherous in mind. And then, looking like he was buying a trendy mascot character for her, he'd come across as the stereotypical dirty old man, melancholy settled over Ban. On top of that,
なんか誰かに見られてるような気がするんだよな。いい年して自意識過剰かもしんねえが。
or someone could be watching you.
あ、それ、私もです。最近、誰かの視線を感じて、たまに、すごく、怖くなるんですよ。
なんで？俺だけじゃなかったか？
Sorry about that if I didn't mute my microphone in time.
ゆあちゃんの場合は心配だな。ストーカーに付け狙われてたりしたら。
そんな、怖いこと言わないでください。
安心しな。そんな奴がいたら、俺が逮捕してやるから。
Oh, Bon, you're continuing to try and sound more like a sugar daddy for some reason. It really does seem like it. Ending that line of conversation with a grin, Bon gazed fixedly at the various frog mascots left on the shelf.
ところで、ゆあちゃんはここに来るのは何度目だ？
私も、初めてです。
And yet you knew of the store.
あんまり客がいねえようだが。静かなブームってやつなのか？
金曜日から日曜日にかけては、すごく混んでるらしいです。
Well, what day of the week is it?
つまり新作が発売されて、週末の間だけですね。特に金曜日は、ものすごく並ぶらしくて。
I mean, clearly it isn't Friday to Saturday. Or excuse me, Friday to Sunday. But yeah.
学生のために18時に販売開始なんですけど、噂だと、その行列だけで竹下通りが埋め尽くされるとか。
It opens up at 1800.
週末だけね。ますます怪しいな。
Is it really suspicious for something to only be open on the weekend? For now, Bon picked up 2 teary Garo froggies which had been released last week and took them to the register. Yua, apparently not intending to buy any, trails after him.
射精
The store clerk was a dumb-looking man in his 20s with green-dyed hair. God. Ugh. His ears were pierced, and he wouldn't have seemed like an employee if he hadn't been behind the register. At least, he didn't look ready to be dealing with customers. The clerk stared unreservedly at Ban and Yua.
娘さんへのプレゼントってやつっすか
That's probably the better way to try and get out of this, buddy.
そうなんだよね。
Okay, saying pretty much doesn't help.
この子がどうしてもって言うから。
And so you buy two.
まあ、たまには父親らしいことしてやらんとね。
Ban put on a friendly smile and bowed repeatedly at the younger cashier. Yua was looking down, a startled expression on her face, but he went on playing at being her father anyway.
それより、このカエルに興味あるんだけど、ちょっと話聞かせてもらっていいかな？ゲコカエルンってそんなに人気あるの？
Gecko froggies.
っていうかゲロカエルんすよバンバン人気あってやばいっす
Bang bang popular, you say? Exactly where does that rank in terms of popularity?
ゲプカエルンね。いつも週末に新作が出るんでしょ。
Oh, we're just gonna keep mispronouncing the name, aren't we?
ゲロカエルんだって言ってんじゃんマジっていうか新作とかそういう言い方マジやめてよ新ガエルだから金土日と超並んでバンバン売れるんでマジやばいっすよマジでバンバン売れるっすから
I feel like somebody's trying way too hard to make this cashier sound like he's cool.
バンバンっすよマジで
Because even for what is supposed to be like the mid-late 2000s, doesn't... I don't think people were actually using bang bang as some sort of... I guess the best way to describe it would be like an adjective. So it just sounds terrible having him periodically say bang bang, then some word. Yua abruptly wrinkled her eyebrows. There was something off about this cashier's speech quirk. The words bang bang. Oh, thank God it ain't just me. Why did he emphasize them so much? It probably wasn't intentional, but Ban had the hallucination that this young store clerk was using his name without any honorifics.
これ、メイドインチャイナってラベルに書いてあるだけなんだけど、メーカーとかわかる？
はメーカーつうかゲロカエルにブランドとかねえしゲロカエルンはゲロカエルンじゃねそれで完結してね
Well, that's just asking for trouble, isn't it?
おっさん待ち受けんだけど教えとくとゲロカエルンって作ってんじゃねえからマジバンバン生まれてっから
It's a fucking plushie. Even Ban seemed likely to explode if the conversation went on any longer, so he stopped it there, paid, and left the store.
店員の教育がなってねえな。
Oh, you mean you're actually supposed to train your employees? They weren't just supposed to, magically have all the experience necessary for the job?
今時の若い連中ときたらもうろくに会話もできやしねえ。大体なんだあの格好はもう。
そうですね。あ。
Yua came to an unforeseen halt. She clutched the edge of Ban's suit, pulling him up short.
見てください、バンさん。
どうした？
A white two-ton truck was parked in the direction where Yua pointed. Some people were in the middle of lowering cardboard boxes from the back of it, and they kept on carrying them over to the back of the Garo Froggy store. The plot thickens.
おお、明日発売になるゲジカエルンの新作か。
Oh my god, he's mispronouncing it still.
ゲロカエルンです。
He clearly doesn't give enough of a shit to pronounce it properly.
ゆあちゃん、よく見つけたな。偉いぞ。
And he's just gonna slide on past.
いえ、そんな。
Normally the side of the truck would have been included the company's name on it, but it was painted blank white, with nothing written there. Except the Garo Froggy cardboard boxes were hauled out of it, did feature a Garo Froggy illustration and the company name. There's a company name. Let me guess, it's, what is it? Nozomi is that big company that's apparently, you know, doing the whole experiment thing, whatever.
有限会社振興。聞いたことあるかい？
No, okay, apparently not. I'm going to assume that this is one of those companies that has a hand in that little experiment thing, because it's the implication seemed to be that it's like 4 or 5 different companies that all contribute resources to it.
ありません。
となれば困った時のももちゃん頼みだな。
After parting ways with Misumi at the station, I went back to my base. All the while, I felt as if I were wandering about in a nightmare. Nanami's various facial expressions appeared and vanished in my head. She was straightforward in how she answered her how she showed her emotions. When she was mad, she'd puff her cheeks up in a big pout, and when she was happy, she'd smile so much I got embarrassed just from looking at her. Each of those expressions in my memory set my heart into a tumult? Yeah, tumult. The phone call, what exactly had the words Nanami conveyed to me meant. The bandage I'd seen her wearing wrapped around her wrist before at school. Was it really? Where was Nanami now? At school? Or had she already gone home?
たく、ほら、前見て歩かないと転んじゃうよ。
We came out onto the roof. Rimi supported me as we went. We did green last time, but you know, I kind of want to do green again.
どうしたの？
これから実家に帰ってみようと思うんだ。
Oh.
これから急だね。
歩いても30分もかからないところなんだ。
That's a decent walk still.
それで
Well, you say less than half an hour. I guess it depends exactly how much less than half an hour it is. But I'm going to assume because it's less than half an hour was the phrase used. It's a little bit closer to half an hour than it is to like 15 minutes.
一緒についてきてほしい。
Oh, we're going to introduce her to our family. I made my request to her, so nervous it felt like my heart would leap out of my mouth. I myself was a tad surprised I'd been able to put it into words and actually say it. Before now, I hadn't been capable of asking favors of people.
わかった。
Yep, she's interested in meeting the parents.
ねえ、私のことをご家族に紹介してくれる？
え？
Rimi wore a slightly impish expression as she took a peek at my face.
タクのお家にお邪魔することになれば、顔を合わせることになるでしょ？
I mean, probably, yeah.
タクはどうするつもりなのかなって思って。
Well, I suppose there are 2 options. We can just say, you're a friend from school. Or, you know, actually introduce you.
ねえ、どう？
But weren't those sort of events supposed to take place after you became boyfriend and girlfriend? Yet Rimi and I weren't in that kind of relationship now. That's what you think, buddy. Hold up. What's with the now? I think there was a possibility of us becoming a couple somewhere down the line? Sure, Rimi was awfully friendly toward me, but when you got down to it, I'm a dirty otaku, you know? There was no point in expecting something. Give it a rest. Don't think so highly of yourself, me.
タク、教えてってば。
その
How should I respond? If I said I would introduce her to them, I felt like it'd be obvious I was getting ahead of myself. If I said I wouldn't introduce her to them, it hurt Rimi's feelings.
もう、ちれったいな。こうなったら、はっきり言わせてもらっちゃおうかな。紹介して。
はい。
Succumbing to surprise, I nodded, but Rimi seemed satisfied with this answer of mine.
計算通り。
All of a sudden, a familiar voice reached my ears. When, surprised, I looked in the direction of When, surprised, I looked in the direction the voice came from. For some reason, Nanami was poking her head out of the shadow of the container housing, with a smile on her face.
ななみ
Why was Nanami here? On top of that, she was excited and smiling, as if the dire voice I'd heard through the phone had come from a different person altogether. Bewilderment made the inside of my head go white. Disregarding my discombobulation, Nanami came running over on light footsteps. Running over on light footsteps, okay.
イエーイイエーイ
She exchanged a high five with Rimi. Eh? Why? From her attitude, it almost seemed like she knew Rimi. I hadn't heard anything about these two knowing each other.
お兄、びっくりした？
Yeah, you did.
実は、全部ナナとリミさんの作戦だったんだよ。
Damn. They got us.
作戦
そう、名付けて、お兄とリミさんの仲を既成事実にしちゃおう作戦。
That's kind of a mouthful of a name.
お兄があんまりにも奥手で、全然リミさんの気持ちに気づこうとしないから、ナナが協力したの。
No way.
じゃあお前手首の包帯とかさっきの電話とかは
全部作戦のうち。お兄ったら本気でナナの心配してるから、ちょっと笑いそうになっちゃった。
Nanami smiled without a trace of timidity. It went straight to my head. You little bitch.
ごめんね、タク。騙すようなことしちゃって。
I'm gonna assume the Japanese original didn't actually use the word bitch, and that's just, you know, the best word to have used for the translation is gonna be my guess.
リミさんは謝らなくてもいいの。お兄が超鈍感なのが悪いんだから。
I fell heavily to my knees. The aggravation of having been taken in, she talked about it like she was making fun of me for being sincerely concerned about her. Oh, we dropped to our knees. Guess we're gonna go ahead and just immediately jump to the proposal stage. I didn't like it. I really didn't like Nanami's way of doing things. But more so than that, my worries had ended as groundless fears. Nanami was not only safe, but thriving. My relief over those things won out, and all the tension came flooding out of me.
タク、大丈夫？
No.
お兄、
No, we're not okay in the slightest.
ほら、だって。これからお父さんとお母さんにリミさんを紹介しに行かなくちゃいけないんだから。
Well, since you tricked us, we have zero obligation to actually go through with it.
3人で一緒に帰ろう。
That's how it works, right? Nanami really was an impotent little sister, always mocking her big brother. I was a bit sulky, but I had no choice except to stand up. Rimi and Nanami smiled at each other delightedly, and held my hands on either side. I began walking as they pulled me along by the hand. I had a hunch that things were going to be fun. I felt like a peaceful, bright future awaited me. Of course, one doesn't, though. And you know what? I think we're going to go ahead and leave this part here. My timer was about to go off. This is clearly about to get into some freaky shit, for lack of a better way to describe it. So yeah, you know what? We're going to go ahead and leave it here on this cliffhanger. And I will see you all next time. Quick reminder, I do have a Discord that is my go-to place for posting about the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with the channel, I do highly recommend that you join that. No need to be active, but of course, if you want to be active, please do. It's a very quiet server right now because it doesn't have a whole lot of people for one thing, but again, there's no requirement necessarily to be active. If you want to support the channel, particularly in the case of this game where I don't have affiliate links, the two best ways to do that, or rather more accurately, the only two ways to do that, are via either Patreon, which there is a link to that down below in the description, or Streamlabs. There is also a link to that down below in the description. If you go Patreon, that is a monthly pledge by default, though theoretically there's nothing stopping you from, deliberately going through the process of setting it up as a one-time thing, but by default it's intended to be monthly. You get some goodies such as early access to videos. If you go the Streamlabs route, that is largely designed around the idea of being one-time donations, but does have the option to do monthly. You don't get any goodies for that beyond the good feeling that you know that more of what you give, and I'm pretty sure the way I have it set up, 100% of what you give will go to the channel. Because Streamlabs themselves doesn't take a cut, and I believe the way I have it set up in Streamlabs is that nobody else that would potentially be used as like the payment processor would actually take a cut necessarily. So the channel gets 100% or pretty damn close to whatever it is that you decide to give if you decide to go and support the channel that way. And again, you do have an option for monthly if you want to go that route, because maybe you don't give a crap about getting early access to videos. You just really want to support the channel. That's an option. It's always an option there. But yeah, so that'll be it for this video. I will see you all next time. Until then, goodbye and farewell.